Well, what do you want to talk about today, Bob Smith?
Uh, Duke Nukem 2001.
Yeah? What about
Like,
it?
are you guys gonna do anything with it? Since you
Uh,
guys have the files and stuff.
yeah, so yeah, definitely, actually. So I actually did a live call. It was either a Google Hangout or a Skype thing with a couple of folks that were from Duke4.net. I'm guessing you're from there. Pretty much the only people that call interested in that are from there. And this guy Frederick who made Bombshell and who's been interested in Duke since forever, as long as I know. And this other guy, Richard, who is a moderator on Duke4.net. I think he kind of runs Duke4.net, and super Duke, like crazy Duke fan, and also has put a lot of himself into uh, Duke 3D in the sense of keep helping people get together to keep the editor going, and himself even working on the editor and having other folks from the mod community. So we all got on this live chat, and you can probably find a record of it on the internet somewhere. And this came up, and what I explained was that long before Gearbox ever was involved, uh, a publishing company called Take Two had the rights to publish Duke Nukem Forever, which means they have the rights to all things Duke Nukem Forever, including old content. Now, what I have been doing is, and in fact, we did a license which allows us to commercially release Duke Nukem Forever now. So we've licensed back from Take Two the rights that they have. They still have their rights, but we now also have a sub license basically to distribute. But what we don't yet have is something that allow us to give legacy stuff away for free, and so I'm working on that. Um, and I think the way to do it is to have a new package with things like Forever and all the old Megaton stuff and maybe the 20th anniversary. Basically, everything we can get together. It's a new package, and then have the old DNF stuff as sort of this free giveaway, this free bonus that you can have access to if you have that. That's right now. That's the easiest legal path to do this. But by the way, you should know you will be disappointed with what you see there. There's been when I was the same as everybody else when I saw the trailers in 1999 and the trailers in 2001. I thought that looks awesome. I want that, and it built up in my head. The actual people that work on this stuff, they did some great work, but they never there was no game, right? So if you have in your mind that there's a game that you can play, you will be disappointed. What you'll have are little vignettes, snippets, incomplete pieces of stuff. In fact, I talked with very recently because this brewed up again. Somebody noticed something and referenced some stuff that Frederick had talked about like months ago or even a year ago, and this became a new topic. Maybe it was on Reddit or one of the chans where some of the trollier types hang out, which is why I suspected you might be a troll. But it bubbled up again, and the expectation that they had created or had created for them, not an expectation I created and not accurate, is that there's a full game there. There's hours of gameplay. That's just not the case. And I had a conversation last week with, let's see, Keith Schuler, who works at Gearbox, who worked on Duke Nukem Forever since the time I left 3D Realms back in 1997, all the way up until like 2007, which includes working all the way through the 1999 and 2001 trailers. I talked with Brian Cousins, who was the art director on Duke Nukem Forever during that era, who also is an employee of Gearbox. I talked with Stephen Cole, who's a level designer at Gearbox, who was also at 3D Realms during all that time. John Anderson, who's a level designer during all that time. And I've had conversations with Alan, who's in San Diego right now. And Alan is like the guy. And they all say, no, it's that's bullshit. There's not hours and hours of gameplay. There's nothing that resembles finished. Somebody said something was 90% complete, not even close. Maybe 9% complete might be a more accurate number. But there is some cool stuff there. And if you're interested in seeing into what game development looks like when game development isn't done, you're going to see some interesting things. You'll see works in progress. You'll see assets from that era. You will see snippets of level design from that era. And
I do think that is really what I've seen of it.
Yeah.
I think that it's really interesting, and it really, if your expectation is correct,
Yes.
it is really interesting, and it's a cool look into what was really behind
right.
all of the
It
hype.
is.
And that's cooler, I think, than a lost game.
That's well, I wish there was a lost game.
Yeah,
I
mean,
wish
I do
there was,
too,
but that's not. If there was, it would have been released.
Yeah.
That's not. There was nothing even in the vicinity of releasable. And in fact, to this day, I think that 3D Realms never released Duke Forever. The people, about half of the development team, didn't want to give up, and they assembled the game that was the thing that got released commercially. And I think they're proud that they stuck it through and saw that happen. And I'm glad that I got to see it and play through it. But I think you'll see other people like, who knows what his opinion is today, but I do remember talking to George about this at one point, and he said, like, yeah, there's a reason why we never released it.
Yeah.
And that's because you don't want people to be disappointed. But as a study into history and into the history of game development, it's really neat. And I talked to Alan, actually, who, when I last talked to Alan Blum, he was motivated to help out in the kind of curating of that. Like, how do you consume this content? Do we need a tour guide? And should that tour guide be Alan to help us understand and consume this content? But it's absolutely, it's gotta get out there, and there's a whole lot of complexity behind it. One, there's some legal complexity. We got to do things right. Two, there is some actual software complexity to this. This is ancient stuff that does not really run right on modern systems. So we either got to just say good luck, or we've got to do something to kind of prepare it and package it in some way that makes it actually accessible to someone. And I'm not going to be the one doing that work, but I've enlisted. This is an objective within Gearbox to make sure this happens, and we've got to fight through these challenges before it can be real. Game developers can dig through the stuff, and people that are not risk averse of digging through unfinished software will find some things, but they won't be able to use everything. Like the more adept you are, the more likely you'll be able to see the full content of what actually exists there. But most people, I'm afraid, won't be able to even see anything in its current state because it's just not accessible to lay people, and it's really developer only kind of stuff. Did I answer your question at all? Did I give you what you were looking for when you called me?
Yes.
Awesome. How do you feel about that?
I'm fine with it. I just want to see what it looks like.
Yeah. What are you expecting?
You said what?
What are you expecting? I'm curious. What do you expect to see when you get, like, what do you think is there?
I expect to see something interesting, like some interesting game mechanics, mental activity.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to see much beyond what was in the trailer, right? Like imagine you see a movie, and then you can walk around the set of that movie. Yeah, you can look at some things that the camera's not looking at, but it's still the same movie set. And it's when you look around at the things that the camera wasn't pointed on for the trailer, doesn't look as good.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the cameras are pointed in the directions they're pointing in, right? So if you're prepared for that, then you're gonna enjoy digging through it. One of the things that I think has hurt it from an expectation point of view is that through the decisions made by George and Scott Miller when 3D Realms had shut down, and when there's just a lot of mess, and through some of those decisions, some other people got access to things, and as a consequence of that, it's kind of become there's like a different hype around the 2001 stuff and the 1999 stuff, building it up as if it's more than it is. And because it's kind of cool for some of those people to be in the club of those that have seen it, those that got access. And I think they've done, those of us that saw those trailers back when they came out and really wanted those great, amazing games to come out, I think that's done those minds a disservice. And I'm sorry if you're one of those minds. I've tried my best not to be part of that, and to just, I've tried my best to do right by Duke, but I get it if you have expectations that have never been fulfilled, and I know that there's some people that put a lot of that on me. I've tried to. For my part, we've invested a lot and spent a lot and lost a lot and taken a lot of heat, just to make sure that Duke isn't dead. Where Duke was before we got involved, was it didn't come out, wasn't ever going to come out. The people behind it were being sued for many, many millions of dollars. They were in millions of dollars of debt, and they had no ability to pay any developer to continue. That was the state that Duke was in. And now, not only did we get to have Forever, whether you liked it or not, it existed and we got to experience it. We also now have a chance to get access to all the other stuff, and there's hope for a future for Duke, which I think is what's more interesting. There's a real path towards a future of new Duke Nukem games, and I think that is what we should all be looking forward to and hoping for and wanting to see the best of.
I know that there's a lot that we can't. I know why we can't reveal the full complexity of all the legal aspects and things like that. But I mean, having seen it from the inside and seen just how complex the situation really is, but we're still trying to, bring things to people. I mean, it really is a testament to how much love there is for Duke at Gearbox.
Yes.
And I mean, I was not a Duke Nukem fan when I started, and there was something about why is Randy still trying to bring this to people that kind of piqued my curiosity and made me really dig into Duke. And frankly, I've seen you attempt crazy things for that game.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a mess. I told the story back when we first announced re-announced Duke Nukem Forever, that it was like, the way I felt about it, it was like, imagine you're driving down a desert highway in the middle of nowhere, and in front of you, there's a horrible, horrible car accident. Like, it's just a mess. And there's metal and gears all over the street, and there's bodies and blood, and it's just a disaster. Do you just drive past and keep going because you got places to go and you got a whole carload of people that are on their way to Wally World? Or do you pull over and see if you can help out? Well, it's not even that simple of a question. Like, most people, frankly, they just keep driving. They might call somebody, but they're not going to pull over and get their hands dirty. But this wasn't just any car. Like, it was like my old boss. It was like my first job. That was like, that's who was in the car. And we're not driving any car, but we happen to be in an ambulance. And right behind us is a tractor trailer that can, the tow truck. And we've got mechanics and doctors, and we've got all the kinds of people you need to deal with this kind of accident. Also, it's the middle of the desert. There's literally no one else around. If we kept driving, that's it. But if we stop and help, we might be able to help out. And yeah, it's expensive. It's messy. We've been hurt. Some people have blamed us for a whole bunch of stuff. We could have just kept driving, and no one had been wiser. And It had nothing to do with this. But I think Duke deserved more than that and deserves more than that, and that's why we pulled over, and that's why we've been helping as best as we can.
How could you live with not knowing what was salvageable from the wreck?
Yeah, right? Like, how could you live with yourself just driving on and not knowing, like, are they dead? You know,
Yeah.
like, there's, you gotta help. So that's what we did, and that's what we're still doing. Hey, anything else you want to talk about, Bob Smith?
Nah.
All right. So with respect to Duke Nukem Forever, there's three things I think that are in the way of releasing stuff. The first thing that's in the way is, long before Gearbox had anything to do with it, Take-Two had the publishing rights. And so anything officially released has to be blessed by the folks that own it. And that's not me, so we have to kind of work with them. And they're great partners, and they've suggested they're willing, but they're a business, you know, so putting effort into things that cost them, you know, time or energy, or that could be a risk for them, has to be justified in some way. The second thing is that there's a massive gap between the reality and the expectation that was created by 3D Realms during the beginning of Duke Nukem Forever. Those first trailers, the trailer that happened in 1999 and the trailer that happened in 2001, were incredible. And I wasn't at 3D Realms at the time. I had already started Gearbox by then, and we were watching and thought, this is just awesome stuff. We can't wait for this game. It turns out that there was a huge amount of smoke and mirrors to create those trailers, and the audience believes that a whole game exists, but in fact they're just fragments that were created or pressed into the service of making that trailer to represent a game that didn't exist at all. There's the third piece, and you know, actually there's probably a fourth, and I'll say that I'll make the fourth the third so I can save the third for the last. So the next one is the actual state of the stuff. There was no really great source control that 3D Realms had back then. So what exists today are just piles and fragments of messy stuff that used to exist on certain developers' individual development drives. And it's like, as is, it's not really usable. It takes people that know what they're doing to be able to dig in and discover it. And there's certainly some people from the community that can figure that stuff out, but I think it would require a huge amount of disclaimer and caveat to just say, okay, here's this, have fun, but you know, this is just a mess, so don't trust us. But I think the last thing is probably the most important thing, and this is that what that is not really mine or Gearbox's or 3D Realms' or Take-Two's. It's actually the work of people, real talent and developers who did what no developer should. Some of these guys were so committed to their dream and their vision that they stayed with it, including Alan, you know, for 15 years. And I think that if anyone's going to decide that the road that was taken can be exposed for all of us to dig through, it should be the people that did it, right? It's like, yeah, for history, we could go through your garbage and learn something about your life. And we can go into your house and dig through all your drawers and look what you have hidden under the bed. But without your consent, that's, to me, unethical and immoral. And that, I think, is the most compelling reason why, you know, I felt maybe we should respect what the actual people that lived through that wish. And, you know, someday we'll all be dead, and the data's there somewhere. And when we're dead, we don't have to care anymore. So maybe some people that come later might care and decide to dig into some of that stuff. But I don't think it's my right to do that. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, we're out of time.
Situation. I'm gonna try one more time.
So Glowy is asking if the Duke Nukem collection that you've been talking about is still happening.
Which the idea of putting all things together. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a publishing project, and I keep putting my thumb on that scale. Steve Gibson's the president of Gearbox Publishing.
Yeah.
And the problem I think they're having, there's a couple of problems. One is they went back through there's all the stuff we did when I was actually at 3D Realms, like the official stuff, like the plutonium pack and all that, and that's great. We stand behind that stuff. And then there's the stuff that was added, the extra stuff with the 20th anniversary edition. And that's great. We stand behind that stuff. There's some other add-on packs that were made from some other people, like Sunstorm and stuff, and some of that stuff's pretty cool. But there's also some I don't know, man. I don't want to censor it as art, but I also don't know that Steve is ready to publish it, because it's not exactly the Duke that I remember at 3D Realms. It's getting a little more on the sexist and racist side.
Oh no.
And it's out there, and if you bought it back in the day, you have your copy. So it's no one's pulling that back. And then there's all this the old school Duke Nukem Forever stuff. And the problem is it's not what people. There's a big messy pile of stuff that doesn't even run, and to get it to run is a pain in the ass, and it's all broken. And none of it's finished, and it's not what people are imagining. I think in a lot of users' minds, there's some perfect finished game that just never came out. That's not true.
Yeah.
And so there's some efforts going on to try, and I've tried to recruit some people that were part of the project in the past to jump in and hey, can you help assemble all this stuff and put it in a package that can be delivered? And some folks that I've talked to about that they start out excited and it's just a pain in the ass and it's not great. So they need to find people that actually do that work. And there's some work there. I keep putting my thumb on that scale. Duke's really important to me, and it was the first commercial product I worked on, so
Yeah.
I really want that to happen.
It is. I mean, it's Duke Nukem Forever was a fun game, I thought.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm not objective about it. I know that those guys worked on it for 15 years.
Oh yeah.
When George first showed me the game, I couldn't believe it. What the. It was it blew my mind, because I just expected there just to be a big mess, and it was some really great inventive stuff. I thought it was really fun gameplay. Ripped it apart.
Glowy has spent more than 200 hours in Duke Nukem Forever.
Wow. Wow, that's probably about as much as I've spent. I was involved in it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Not as much as Alan Blum's play. Nobody spent as much time as him. That guy spent 15 years of his life working on
Yeah.
it. In my opinion, he's one of the greatest designers the video game industry has ever known. He pretty much created Duke Nukem. Okay, that's as good as it's gonna get.
All right.
So
Well,
it's not going anywhere.
All right.
So, but it's just not super tight.
As long as
Let's do the memory.
as long as it's connected and stuff. You know what I still have? Do you remember us working on the custom GPU for it?
Yes, that was awesome. I still have an unopened, new in box.
I still have that too. Yeah, with the belt buckle and all that.
I'm proud of that.
That was a cool thing.
That was a fun time, and that was a fun campaign. And
It really was.
Happened with that. Okay.
Chloe, thank you for answering the question.
Yeah, it's a tough question, and I don't have all the answers because I don't run the publishing business, and I'm just a developer. But also, it's also complicated too. Some of the Forever stuff is complicated because technically 2K has all the publishing rights.
Oh yeah.
and they don't like doing things for free.
Right. Yep. That does complicate things.
But there is effort going on, and there's people that care. And there's actually going to be some news on Duke Nukem here pretty soon.
Oh, good.
Some people might be interested in. We'll see.
Huh. So.